Alright, this is a replacement frame for a Powercar Junior. Basically, I call it a replacement frame because it's not meant to be an exact duplicate of an original Powercar frame, because the original Powercar frames are made of conduit. They were never intended for speed, they were only intended for style. So because of that, they didn't have a lot of, actual stress or strength to them. This particular frame has an optional floorboard installed. This also has all the engineering of the original. Notice how large the area is underneath the steering sector so that an adult can get in there. The pedals for the foot controls go clear out here at the front of the frame. That allows all the space from that area all the way back to where the rear axle is for somebody to sit in. There's also plenty of room up above for people to get in their legs underneath, and the steering is not like a regular go-kart. Steering of a regular go-kart being in the center and going straight down. This one's mounted high and left just like a full-size vehicle, and this also has the same hollow tube that would have been on the original Powercar. This allows you to send the wires for your horn down through the center of the steering tube and allow you to have a horn that beeps right in the center of the steering wheel like a full-size car. The front assemblies, you'll notice, has bearings front and rear. Has adjustable right here at this section. You can adjust your toe in on your front end, and once you get it all set up, you can either weld it in place or pin it in place or just tighten it down really tight. Also bearings down in here in the sector. I don't know if you can see it with this lighting. Alright, this here is a Reproduction steering wheel. It's exactly like the original steering wheels the Powercar used, cast by me using an original sample. It goes on the steering sector, and as you can see, the steering column sticks out quite a ways. There's actually extra put on there on purpose. If you want to build this car for a kid, you can leave that extra out there. If you want to make it so it's got more leg room to get in, cut it back some and give yourself room. Just basically clear your dash just enough to get in the vehicle and set it in there, drill through the holes and pin it into place. There's a hole in the steel core that locks it into position that allows you to pin that into place, and the wires can still go right down through the center to allow your horn to mount right here in the middle. The horn buttons are generally available through any auto parts store. They are the type that strap over the top of a steering wheel and allow for when a horn button's gone bad. They fit in there perfect and work great. Alright, this is kind of give you an idea of what's going on with the rear wheels here. This is an original rear wheel off of a 1961 Thunderbird Junior. The 61s had the smaller shaft axle than we're using now. We're using a beefier axle on the replacement frames to allow for a heavier person to ride in it, so I can't slide this on there. But when it slides on, a lock clip goes on the outer ring here, holds it into place, and then you put bushings back here to hold it from going too far in. But then this spins on there and allows you to drive off a V-belt directly back to your jack shaft that allows your car to roll forward. Okay, here's an example of another wheel possibility. This is actually a solid rubber tire. It's a 10 by 275. As you can see, it fixed over the axle shaft. There's the groove in order to lock it into position, and there's plenty of room back here to put your V-belt drive in. V-belt drives are pretty easy to put on there. You just put a spacer in there to allow your spacing out to support your V-belt away from the wheel, and then lock it in with a couple bolts and you're ready to go. That allows you to drive. Because of the fact that this axle shaft basically sits right behind your butt at the crack of the seat, that does not allow you much room to do a live shaft. Okay, live shaft wouldn't work well in here. Jack shaft has to be used in this position. There is enough room in here to allow from adjustments to allow the body of the car to align with the center of the wheel well. They use the same frame on these for many different models, and because of that, a lot of times the rear axle was just slightly forward of the wheel wells, but that can be adjusted for on the replacement frames. Alright, here's an example of kind of an extreme. These wheels are actually, I found, are a little too small. Firestone makes these through Coker tire. They are an actual countertop display tire. They are to display some people that are selling Reproduction white wall tires and have correct sawtooth pattern on it, but they are actually too small for this application. What you want to get is a 5-inch wheel. 5-inch wheel with a 350 by 5 tire works best in these applications for size and the way they look. And in actual application, you'd want this valve stem to be to the back side to allow you to get out of the way. Hubcaps for most of the ones that are made by Powercar go on a 5-inch wheel. Okay, I've stuck a pair of 1957 Thunderbird bumpers on this frame just to basically show the way that the bumper's set on this. The rear bumper is bolted onto the top of the frame, the front bumper is bolted onto the top of the frame, and the body is then loaded on afterwards. The bumpers in the 1957 Thunderbird, 58, 59, and 60 Thunderbird all stay on the frame when the body is lifted off for servicing or for anything else you need to do to it. But the rear of the frame rails sticks out, and you can put a chrome tip on there to simulate a dual exhaust, and those bolt into that position, and then the front bumper bolts into the same. Now, when this frame is used on the Mustang bodies, 1965 through 67, and then shortly we're also making the 1971 72s. Those bodies bolt, or the bumpers bolt directly on the body, then the body bolts to the frame. I'm going to go grab a set of outriggers to show how those work for mounting the body. Okay, here we got a set of the accessory body mount frame adapters that allow you to bolt the body onto the frame. Basically, your front mount goes up here behind the front wheel well. The front wheel well, then out here on the outside, you bolt through the body. The original is bolted through the body. You could probably make a tab off the inside of the body and mount it to the top instead, so it's a little cleaner look, but they originally just bolted right through the side of the body at that point. And then at the rear, you get this little beefier one, goes right back here behind the rear wheel well. The rear wheel well then allows you the body mount out here also on the end. Okay, those can be welded on or they can be bolted into place. Original Powercar frames were nothing more than conduit and bolted together. It is a whole different story from what these are. This allows you some options that you would never be allowed on the original Powercar frame. Is the steering sector can be moved down lower. This sticks up fairly high, gives you a little bit more leg room to get underneath, but it also sticks up fairly high. What the factory did is they cut a U-shaped notch down through the body to allow the body to slide down over the steering sector at this point. But this can be flipped around and mounted on the bottom side. It will lower your steering wheel quite a bit and limit some of your space to get in. It's not as bad as you bring the steering wheel closer, but that lowers the whole thing, and you won't have to take as large of a notch out of the body.